It was November 1st, 1919. U.S. Marine Sergeant Hannikin and Corporal Button were on a most dangerous assassination assignment in northern Haiti. They were to be entering the mountainous enemy encampment, hundreds or even over 1,000 armed, rebel Cacos strong. Leading the duo was nominally one of the enemy, a rebel officer, Jean-Baptiste Cons. However, he had secretly defected to the U.S. occupation, ensuring easy entry into the camp. Hannikin and Button also had ditched their Marine uniforms for less conspicuous clothing, similar to those worn by many of the insurgents. No enemy Cacos would turn their way in surprise at the enemy in their midst, Cons giving correct passwords at each checkpoint. Following behind them were 17 members of the Haitian Gendarmerie, a Haitian constabulary/militia organized and allied with the U.S. occupation forces. Their goal was to cut off the head of national Haitian resistance against the U.S. military and allied Gendarmerie forces. The target above all was one man, one of the key leaders of the Caco rebels, the face of the rebellion. His name was Charlemagne Peralte. Welcome, good strangers, to Historical Detour. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, and consider joining my Patreon for exclusive perks. Feel free to comment on any topic or suggestions you would like to see covered. Charlemagne's upbringing was uniquely privileged in the country founded by self-emancipated people. His father, Remy, a widow general, had remarried to Charlemagne's mother, a seamstress. Charlemagne was the couple's only child, born at their estate in Hinche in either 1885 or 86, although General Remy had several surviving children from his first marriage. The teenage Charlemagne, who had been tutored by Hinche's parish priest, once old enough, moved away from the estate to the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince, attending a private Catholic school known as St. Louis de Gonzague from 1900 to early 1904, receiving a classical education. After his studies, he returned to the family estate to assist his mother in managing their agricultural property. Wider politics in Haiti throughout the late 19th to early 20th centuries, suffice to say, were extremely turbulent. Civil conflict between the national and liberal parties was a common occurrence. Also frequent were military commanders who decided to forcefully assume the powers of the president. Despite his relative youth, Charlemagne frequently threw himself eagerly into contemporary domestic political squabbles. He generally aligned with the traditional political, landed and semi-aristocratic elite of Haiti. However, he would not emerge to be particularly prominent in these struggles until 1915. In February 1915, the military commander, Vilbrun Sam, seized control of Haiti. However, by the next month, the revolutionary Rosalvo Bobo was leading a rapidly growing revolution. President Sam, in desperation, ordered one of the most notorious mass killings the island had ever seen. In a single day on July 27, 1915, soldiers marched into the Port-au-Prince jail, where numerous political prisoners were detained, many on trumped-up charges or held without trial. In a single day, 167 unarmed men were murdered. This would be Sam's final mistake. The relatives of these men, some of the most prominent and influential families of Haiti, rapidly organized an insurrection inside the city, finding and executing the men who carried out or participated in the massacre. Within 24 hours, Sam had fled from the presidential palace, his forces rapidly disintegrating in the capital. In desperation, he found sanctuary in the French embassy. The diplomatic protection proved of little use, as the mob, galvanized by the Haitian elites, entered the embassy and grabbed Sam and took him outside the walls. Rather than the mercy of a bullet, Sam was beaten to death. In July of 1915, Peralt was merely an administrative and military officer in his late 20s, in control of the Haitian coastal town of Léogâne. He had yet to play a larger role in Haitian history. He was soon, however, a member of the Transitional Revolutionary Committee, a temporary governing council associated with Rosalvo Bobo, which sought control of Haiti for a few short weeks. Peralt's nationalist writings had become extremely well received in Haiti, making his appointment to the council easy. The Revolutionary Committee, however, was soon disbanded by Admiral William Caperton, the initial leader of the American invasion, due to not wanting any challenge to American authority. There were several reasons the U.S. decided to occupy the Caribbean nation. When President Sam was killed by his own citizens, Sam being a pro-U.S. head of state meant a loss of U.S. influence in the country and the possible rise of unfriendly factions in the government, especially if a new regime allied with Germany could not be tolerated in the U.S. by the Wilson administration. Once it was clear Sam's regime was falling with his death, U.S. naval and marine forces were promptly dispatched to Haiti. The U.S. invasion faced little resistance. William Caperton issued this public statement to the public of Haiti. I am directed by the U.S. government to assure the Haitian people that the U.S. has no object in view except to ensure, establish, and help to maintain Haitian independence and the establishing of a stable and firm government by the Haitian people. Every assistance will be given to the Haitian people in their attempt to secure these ends. It is the intention to retain U.S. forces in Haiti only so long as it will be necessary for this purpose." End quote. The military occupation would long exceed World War I and continue for 19 years. In reality, the most pressing issue for American intervention was ensuring American business interests faced no danger. The infrastructure of the Haitian American Sugar Company and other American entities were given special protection. Gold reserves were seized from Haitian banks ostensibly to pay back foreign loans. The U.S. even rewrote the Haitian Constitution to ensure foreign individuals or entities could purchase or hold property in Haiti. Another issue was the German presence in Haiti and the outbreak of World War I. While numbering no more than a few hundred strong in the early 20th century, the small German community in Haiti controlled much of the international commerce. However, it was feared by the U.S. that the German community provided intelligence on the Caribbean and Americas to Imperial Germany, a particularly frightening prospect, with Germany engaging in unrestricted submarine warfare and attempting military-industrial sabotage with the outbreak of World War I. When the American invasion occurred, all of the German Haitians were interred and had their properties and possessions seized. Under U.S. occupation, the Haitian military was disbanded, replaced with the Allied gendarmerie, who were rapidly tasked not only with law enforcement and tax collection, but as press gangs for corvée laborers. A substantial portion of Haiti's taxes and exports would be going to various foreign creditors that had loaned money to Haiti. This enraged many within the country who viewed the corvée labor as the reintroduction of enslavement. Petty abuses of power by both the gendarmerie and Marines also added fuel to the fire of Haitian resentment. The U.S. strong-armed the Haitian Senate into voting the compliant Philippe Soudre as president and neutered any executive authority of the Haitian Senate and legislature. Many of the Marines and Navy personnel stationed in Haiti were quite disappointed in their deployment and of low morale, especially from 1917 to 18, when the American Expeditionary Forces to Europe were sent to the Western Front. Meanwhile, the Marines in Haiti endured punishing heat, tropical illnesses, and boredom. The dissolvement of the Haitian Military and Revolutionary Committee meant Charlemagne was forced into an early retirement. He headed back to his estate in Hinche, ostensibly spending the next few years managing his farm. However, by 1918, he was supposedly involved in resistance against the occupation, accused of being involved in an attack on the local gendarmerie payroll, along with his brothers. His elder brother Saul was executed, and much of the family's lands and property seized as a punitive punishment. After attempting to go on the land, he was seized and forced into mandatory labor in a prison camp. However, with the aid of a sympathetic Haitian and guard, he escaped and would formally join the Cacos resistance. Charlemagne swiftly became one of their chief military commanders and political leaders. The name of the Cacos resistance, organized by Peralt, was in recognition of previous guerrilla movements known as the Cacos that had operated in the mountains of northern Haiti since the 1800s. They took their name from a Haitian red-plumed bird that hid under foliage. Many of the Cacos did not even possess reliable firearms, often relying on simple hunting rifles and machetes, cutting instruments that could serve ably as melee weapons. Swords and spears were also apparently a common sight among Cacos fighters. However, in open battle against gun-wielding Marines, this style of combat was a losing proposition. Early strongholds for the Cacos were old French fortresses, although as the occupation progressed, many merely hid among the mountains or even formed cells among the civilian population. Despite many engagements outnumbering Marine and Gendarmerie forces in fights, inferior Cacos morale, discipline, and firearms could not overcome the professional U.S. forces. While nominally one of the Haitian elite, Charlemagne was able to galvanize support against a common enemy in the American forces. This eased otherwise flaming regional and political divisions that caused Haiti's frequent instability. Nominal enemies made common cause under Charlemagne's banner. The first Caco War against the American forces was a swift defeat for the rebels by late 1915. The second Caco War under Charlemagne Peralte would be far more significant. His attacks not only emphasized destruction of property related to the occupation, but practical seizing of firearms and munitions. His military command experience, though somewhat limited, allowed for greater strategic consideration of when and where to strike. One of Charlemagne's greatest military feats was the capture and sack of Metz, choosing to attack the isolated garrison of Gendarmerie without needing to worry of marine reinforcements. However, even in successful fights, along with the failures, more Cacos were killed than Marines and Gendarmerie. Peralt, according to reports, was, quote, protected by a fanatical bodyguard and never slept in the same place 2 nights, end quote. What also aided in his longevity was avoiding fighting in the thick of the action, merely giving direction a safe distance away in the engagements he commanded. He also traveled incognito, further aiding in evasion. However, though the Marines held the towns, cities, and fortresses, the many thousands of Cacos moved throughout the countryside unimpeded, especially in the north and mountainous Dominican border. This allowed for unpredictable Caco raids and ambushes throughout the country. The revolutionary ideology of Peralt's movement was not Marxist-Leninist in nature, but rather broadly nationalistic, Catholic Christian, and anti-colonial. He argued Haiti under American occupation was a recreation of the days of forced labor and chattel slavery, an affront to the sovereignty of the Haitian people. He, in addition, sought international recognition for his movement and Northern Provisional Government as the legitimate Haitian nation. He wrote to various embassies and international organizations seeking their recognition. In one letter to the French ambassador, he states, quote, for 4 years, the occupation has been insulting us constantly. Each morning it brings us a new offense. The people are poor, and the occupation still oppresses us with taxes. The holy battle in the North is led by brave citizens. The South is only waiting for the right man to follow its wonderful example. Don't worry, we have the arms. Let's get rid of those savage people, whose beastly character is evident in the person of their President Wilson. Traitor, bandit, troublemaker, and thief. End quote. Although seeing success in smaller-scale guerrilla ambushes and raids, Charlemagne would direct his most ambitious attack in early October 1919. It was an assault on the capital of Port-au-Prince. Hundreds of Cacos attempted to storm into the city's northern gate, intending to surprise and force the garrison of Gendarmerie and Marines into fleeing or surrendering. Things did not go well. Charlemagne had written to the British embassy of the upcoming attack beforehand, perhaps wanting to cozy up to a potential foreign ally. Instead, the embassy promptly showed the letter to American military personnel, who did not let their guard down in the capital. Within minutes of the Americans and Gendarmerie giving fire to the charging Cacos, the rebels fled. Dozens of Cacos were killed, while the defenders suffered few casualties. Though defeated, it showed to the American forces that, even in the capital, their forces were vulnerable to attack anywhere in the country from Caco forces. The U.S. would step up their efforts in tracking and eliminating Peralt. Eventually, both his base camp was found with the aid of former Caco Jean-Baptiste Cons, who led the assassination party into the camp for $2,000. Jean-Baptiste lulled Peralt into trusting him with high command after feigning victories against American forces. The aforementioned Sergeant Hannikin and Corporal Button in the beginning of our tale were less than 100 feet from their target Peralt. However, accounts vary, a Caco apparently spotted an unusually high-quality American gun in their party, and when the men replied in Creole but with American accents, the alarm was raised. Sergeant Hannikin spotted a confused Charlemagne, however, and fired 2 rounds into the Haitian leader's chest with his service-issued handgun. The autopsy reads, quote, body shows 2 bullet wounds on left chest, both bullets passing through the body, leaving it with small clean wounds in the back, both bullets having penetrated the heart, end quote. After leading the thousands of Cacos for little over a year, Charlemagne's life would end. Hitching the fallen Peralt onto their pack mule, the posse made a fighting retreat, killing many and wounding others, forcing those in the camp to disperse. Both Hannikin and Button would receive the Medal of Honor for slaying, quote, the Supreme Bandit Chief of Haiti, end quote. In a gruesome display meant to terrify the remaining Caco resistance, Peralt's body was ordered stripped and displayed for the Haitian public to see at the U.S. camp. Photos of the propped-up corpse were then taken with the crumpled Haitian flag. Posters of the scene were made for propaganda purposes, published in newspapers, and even leaflets were flown from U.S. planes across the countryside. However, almost immediately among Haitians and the Cacos, Peralt was symbolically martyred and crucified, now resembling Jesus. His death only galvanized and hardened what resistance remained. Although never driving the Marines from Haiti, the Cacos would remain a thorn in the side of the U.S. for years, and in 1934, the Marines and U.S. forces would leave Haiti, fulfilling Peralt's goal of a free Haiti posthumously. Here is a poem. Dead at 33 years of age, betrayed like Christ, exposed nude under his flag, crucified, as one day he had dared to promise it to us, and for our nation he sacrificed himself, confronting the American, and alone to shout, "Halt! Let's bare our head before Charlemagne Peralte." Thus reads the headstone of Peralt's gravesite, which was erected shortly after American occupation, formally ending in 1934, mostly due to FDR wishing an end to costly military occupation and interventions in Central American and Caribbean states. Peralt, in the decades since his death, has become an exalted icon of Haiti's national legacy. Whereas the early figures of Haiti's lore are figures such as Toussaint Louverture, enslaved men who freed themselves through revolution, later icons such as Peralt represent national resistance against foreign rule and exploitation of Haiti. Thank you for watching this episode of Historical Detour. Be sure to like, subscribe, and consider joining my Patreon. Farewell.